you know him as Vince, Apex, fund administration company, and you know, again, institutional quality fund administration company where any pension plan would look at it and the actual work from it and say, I can give this guy an allocation. So with that, I'll let you do your best.
Mike, thanks for having me here. Apex Fund Services, full fund administration firm, started in 2003 with a small office in Bermuda. Over the past few years, we've added a few offices here and there. We're now up to 19 offices worldwide. I run the U.S. out of New Jersey. And we'll be adding on offices over the next year. I think 2011 we're planning another 5 different countries. But we still are very, small in number. We have 180 people. We actually have accountants who work on the funds that we handle. It's a very high-touch, service-oriented type of organization. We handle everything from single manager funds, hedge funds, fund of funds, private equity funds, other unusual types of strategies. I actually handle a couple of real estate tax lien funds here in the U.S. As fund administrator, we're responsible for all aspects of the back office of your fund. We handle everything from the AML work on your investors, the subscription redemption processing, all the portfolio work, all of the general accounting, and direct reporting to your investors. One of the newer products that we have rolled out is a middle office platform. Something we're very excited about. The middle office platform that we rolled out is a platform that we've given managers that has an order management system, risk platform for them to handle all of their trading. It integrates into our system for daily reconciliation, tri-party reconciliation, and then integrates with the production of the month-end NAVs. We offer a number of products for managers. We have an emerging manager platform in Bermuda for helping managers getting offshore funds start up with low cost and quick to market, about 2 weeks. We have a Luxembourg SICAV, an Irish UCITS platform. So there's a number of things that we work with our managers in order to get them to the markets that in a quick, efficient manner to raise capital, because there's a number, no one is just raising money in the U.S. Solely. There's everybody's chasing money, and a lot of the overseas markets or U.S. managers are realizing that they have to raise money. So we provide those platforms for our managers. One key, as I'll echo what Marisa said, we work very well with all service providers. We take pride in that our auditors, prime brokers, lawyers that we work with all enjoy working with us. We understand the business real well. We make their work significantly easier, which keeps the costs down for you as managers, for your audit, for your legal structuring, for everything that you do. I'll be here to the end of the night, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask me. But even more of a testimony to our work, one of my clients here, Andrew, at the end of the tables there, and you can ask him how it is working with Apex and the type of work that we do. So thank you once again for having me here, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The state of Florida has a lot of interesting things going on right now. A little bit of an intro about myself. I am the Chief Operating Officer for a small hedge fund based here in Miami, Simplified Asset Management. And I'm also the founding partner of an economic development consultancy. So there's kind of an interesting convergence of opportunities going on in Michigan, or I'm sorry, in Florida, hello, and our industry. So just to kind of set the stage, we had a couple of discussions earlier. I think Al was talking to a few people earlier this afternoon to kind of frame where Florida is today from an economic and fiscal perspective. A couple of quotes, you'll have to visualize them. Trust me, I have them on the page. Florida, in a recent study by the Pew Center for the States, Florida ranked 46th out of all 50 states in terms of long-term fiscal solvency. Obviously, we talked about the unemployment. Florida's has the fourth highest unemployment rate in the country, with strong concentrations in tourism and construction. That's unlikely to change immediately, particularly on the construction side. There's an interesting trend going on in state governments today as they're struggling to meet their fiscal, their constitutional requirement to balance their budget. States are starting to look for, obviously, revenue generation opportunities, fees and taxes, but also more creative ways to generate revenue for themselves and also generate higher yields on the assets that they have. That's going to be really interesting for this community. I found a great quote in Time magazine. It said, we've got a water crisis, insurance crisis, environmental crisis, and budget crisis to go along with our housing crisis in the state of Florida. I think most people can relate to that. And then another quote about the fact that people are quite concerned about taxpayers really footing the bill to shore up the state's pension plan. So there are a lot of challenges in the state of Florida today. There's also a lot of opportunities. But if we take a step and look at those challenges from kind of a stakeholder perspective. So if we were to stop and look at this as a business owner, you would probably say the big challenges that people are facing are, how do you generate demand for your products and services in a high unemployment, low growth environment? How do you access capital, even if you've got the right product for growth? How do you access the right capital to invest for the future? We all know about fears of increased taxation and fees, and that's a reality, and that's going to be a reality that's here to stay for the foreseeable future. And finally, increased foreign competition as China and India and Brazil work up the sophistication curve or the value curve. You know, U.S. businesses are going to see more and more competition. If you looked at it from the perspective of a Florida resident, the biggest challenge is finding jobs. You know, at the end of the day, with the unemployment rate above 10%, above 11%, and it's not trending downwards, job creation and finding a job is a real concern for Floridians for the first time in really a generation. You're looking also at a lot of risks to the benefit programs that people have come to rely on, whether that's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and for those fortunate enough to have them, pension plans, where people are looking at underfunding situations, or for state employees, a lot of challenges with existing pension plans. There are concerns about unemployment benefits running out, rising taxes and fees also on the consumer side or the residential side, and people are really kind of looking around and wondering about the economic future for their children. What type of a physical house are we leaving for our children and our grandchildren? And the last group that we would typically look at would be government stakeholders. So I think we all know the largest issue facing government stakeholders today is, how do you create jobs? I flew down here from the state of Michigan, where I moved a couple of years ago out of New York City. My wife and I made an agreement. I said, you can go to school anywhere you'd like, anywhere in the country. I run a hedge fund. As long as I have an internet connection, no worries. And I promptly forgot about it. And a couple of months later, I ended up in the state of Michigan. If you live in Michigan, you live in Nevada, you live in California, you live in Florida, or more specifically, if you serve in a state like that, you've got to be scratching your head today. How do you create jobs? How do you create an environment where sustainable job growth is viable? Second issue, balancing the state's budget. We're all familiar with that challenge, and it's particularly problematic at the state level with a fiscal requirement to balance the budget in a period of economic contraction. You have a real challenge. In some ways, it's a blessing. If you look at the federal level, they've got a different type of challenge. But the challenge at a state level is really near-term, immediate. How do we get our budget to balance in the next year? There's also another issue today because of the recent elections, this new administration has a real challenge and a real opportunity to establish a real economic vision for the future and convince the voters and the residents of the state of Florida that they're the right team to bring Florida out of this recession. And finally, the big question is, and it ties back to creating jobs, how do we strengthen our core industries? How do we ensure that those industries are positioned for growth near term and also for the foreseeable future? So if you would bubble those issues up to kind of overarching themes, there's lots of challenges, lots of things going on here, but there are probably three fundamental issues that the government is trying to attack from a fiscal and economic perspective. The first is, how do you strengthen your key industries? Because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to create jobs and that's how you're going to deal with your fiscal issues. Second issue, obviously, we need to create jobs and we need to create them quickly. And the third issue really is addressing the long-term solvency of the state's fiscal position. The interesting thing is that this group, collected here, has a really interesting role to play in that challenge. The FLAIA, and I would say Mike has been a real driver of this, has been looking for almost the last year at what role alternative investment managers, hedge fund managers, private equity managers, venture capital managers can play in attacking or supporting these three statewide initiatives. And we've been kicking around an idea called the Florida Public-Private Pension Partnership. The objectives, or kind of the value proposition of this plan, is to help the state leverage its existing assets for sustainable growth, support Florida-based businesses and their strategic industries. Key to creating job growth and increased prosperity over time is innovation. How do we get Florida-based businesses to innovate, particularly early-stage funds? How do we jumpstart job creation, obviously? How do we help close the access to capital gap? And at the end of the day, you look around the room, that's kind of what we do, is we fund investment opportunities. How do we connect this burning platform for job creation and business creation, really, with the right capital to provide that growth? A couple more. We want to broaden the state's economic base so that even while we're looking at the current challenge, we reduce the challenge over time. We broaden the economic and fiscal base so we address some of the longer-term sustainability challenges. We're looking to generate higher yields for the state's pension plan, and we want to accelerate the rate of economic recovery. And these are all really pretty slides. I wish you could see them. But this group has a real role to play in that space. The strategic objective, as the FLAIA board has outlined it, is to help the state leverage alternative investment strategies to generate higher returns on the state's pension plan. We're going to look to jumpstart or enable key industries by directing a portion of those investment allocations to early-stage, high-growth businesses within the state's strategic industries.